Addiction treatment and delayed gratification. So, yesterday I was talking about delayed gratification in general, and today the topic is about addiction treatment. So, we all know that life will act on us, and sometimes life acts in a way that it paralyzes us. And addiction is one of those tools used by life to throw us or kick us down a hole. Or And we all have either gone through addiction or we have seen people who are lingering in such a puddle or such a mess. And we know how lethal or how hampering addiction can be. And today in this video, I'm talking about both kind of addiction, the one that is related to substance and the other that is related to behavior. So both behavioral and substance disorders or substance addiction, and by substance I mean uh, you can even take small things such as tea, caffeine, alcohol, drugs, both kind of drugs, synthetic and the natural one, that THC, cannabinoids, methamphetamine, meth, other such uh, drugs such as ecstasy and whatnot. And by behavioral disorder, it may include just such as pornography, other compulsive disorders, so compulsive behaviors such as some people uh, they have a compulsion to steal things or compulsion to harm people. So such compulsive disorders are also included in the broader term addiction. So let's brief about the mechanism behind addiction. So in our brain, there are two hormones, cortisol and dopamine, and we all have heard about them somewhere. So the cortisol is a stress hormone that it prepares us to either fight or flight, either fight or flee. It means if we are facing some situation, some deadly situation, and that needs immediate response. So this hormone comes into play. So at the time, if we are facing uh, some opponent or some enemy or some threat, so when facing some threat, we can either fight, or if we know that we cannot face or we cannot fight that, we will flee. So cortisol is an important stress hormone because it regulates a lot of activity patterns in our behavior and it ensures our survival. We may have seen it sometime that while facing threat, sometimes we freeze to the ground, and it happens because fear has a paralyzing effect on us, and that depends on the intensity or the appearances of a threat and how that threat is perceived by our mind. If you face a giant python or giant snake or some really scary looking animal, you are likely to freeze because you know you cannot fight it. And in that case, cortisol help in the decision making, and it resolve the dilemma. It melts the ice by prompting you, melts the frozen ice, melts your frozen behavior, and it's nudges you or it prompts you that this threat is unlikely to be fought and win over and you should run away. And in the same way, if you are facing some um, a particular threat that is threatening your family, and in that case, when you know in that heat of moment happens, when it happens, the two neighbors are quarreling, and uh, many of them, those are who are quarreling, they are high on drugs or alcohol, and you know this behavior when they are not in their own control. The drugs and alcohol is controlling them, and in that case, you know their behavior, it can be threatening, it can be life threatening, and this brings out the fight thing in you. Now, this is how cortisol works. And now let's talk about dopamine. Dopamine is a feel good, feel good or happy hormone because it releases tension, it releases stress from your body. And there are many neurons, many receptors in your brain that are likely to be activated when such a thing that gets into your body. And we all know that we Homo sapiens, we also belong to animal kingdom. So we are also limited by the physiography, animal physiognomy, and in that this animal physicality, we are likely to take up things by mouth, take up things, the digestion thing, or the inhalation. Both things works in the same way that works in other animal species. So if it is alcohol, it will be gulped down. If it is tobacco, it will be smoked. If it is some other drug, it will be inhaled. In all this, when something is either down in your esophagus, down in your food pipe, or in your nostrils, in your breath, in your lungs, it will mix with blood. This is how metabolism works. Everything that goes inside your body, sooner or later, it is going to mix up with blood. And the same blood runs throughout your body. And this blood, when reaches brain, if it releases stress, it is activated by dopamine. So let's take tea. So the soothing effect of tea is because of two factors. First, there are some inherent stress releasing or anti-inflammatory properties. Anti-inflammatory properties in the tea leaf that relaxes you, that relaxes the tense up muscle. And at the same time, this anti-inflammatory um, chemical in tea, they bind to dopamine, and this is how uh, this stress relaxation works. And it's a good thing because we cannot stay in the stressed or pressurized situation for a long time. It will not be good for our internal organs. It will not be good for our uh, physical, psychological, and social life. You cannot live a meaningful and happy life if you are stressed up all the time. So stress relaxation is necessary, and nature has given us a hormone that helps us in this relaxation. But this should be a one-off thing or one-time thing or once in a blue moon kind of thing. Once in a blue moon kind of thing. I say this because first, we are not stressed up all the time. The situation around us, uh, it depends on how you perceive them. Some situations are really stressing, they're really stressful, but a few situations are not. And we can make out the difference which situation are really stressful and which are not. I would say made up thing. And this stress thing, it is more a perceived thing related to your perception. Now, what happens when you consume these things, tea, caffeine, alcohol, drugs, and any such behaviors? What happens when you consume these things in higher amount, higher amount, and mm, more frequently? What happens if you increase the quantity to get a better mood? So if you keep increasing the quantity or if you keep taking them frequently when there's no stress there, then no stress to be released, but still you take up, if you consume these things, what happens is these things, these consumptions, they will hijack the dopamine and they will hijack the dopamine in such a way that these receptors or whatever you are consuming, whether it is nicotine, alcohol, tea, uh, weed, any synthetic or chemical drugs, whatever you're consuming, those substances or those behavior, they will likely reduce the level of dopamine artificially. This artificial reduction in the level of dopamine will compel you to consume that substance more or indulge in that behavior more frequently, consume more. So it sets off a vicious or a negative feedback that the same substance that you use for to relax yourself is now has now artificially reduced the amount of the hormone that helps you in the survival, that helps you relax yourself. So this artificial reduction of this particular hormone, this will set off a negative feedback when you want to consume more. And when you want to consume more, this this consumption of drugs or alcohol or anything, this will keep hijacking the dopamine. And and in long time, these drugs or these substances, they will control your mind. This is how addiction works. So in a nutshell, the mechanism is same. Both cortisol and dopamine are hijacked, and they're hijacked by this compulsive behavior. Whether this compulsive behavior belongs to consumption of substances or other disorders such as pornography. And what happens in general, y- you know that we are in a stress situation, so anything that cools our nerves and everything that brings your heart to ease, you are likely to consume it, and you are likely to consume it in future when you know about it. But what life does is, when life knows that you are caught up in such a web, in such a web of addiction, It it exploits your weakness. When the same addiction becomes a weakness, and what better what better way can be there to knock out someone other than to exploit their weaknesses? And you can easily imagine it. It is the easiest workable and employable solution to knock your opponent down. If you can exploit someone's weaknesses to the extent that they can be dragged into a trap, and by dragging into such a trap, they can be kicked down a hole from which they can never get up, from which they can never climb out. And if this can be done, if someone can be kicked down a hole from which they can never be coming out, so it's a clear thing of elimination of your opponent, elimination of your opponent, and this is how the natural selection thing works. So natural selection thing, it weeds out the weak, weeds out the weak and select the strong, selects the strong. So if something is your weakness, and so what better way can there be uh, to defeat your opponent other than embroiling or catching up your opponent in a web? And you know that how this things works in life, even in usual politics or interpersonal games or in society, people indulge in some the same behavior that we have learned from life. That we, if we find that our opponent is strong enough, we exploit his weakness, we drag him down a hole, and we are likely to keep him there so there can be no challenge to our position. This is how, this is what happens in life, and this is how wicked life can be, wicked and cruel life can be. And in that case, in the case of addiction, you cannot blame anyone because it is your weakness and your addiction. And you knew it from the beginning that such and such weakness may spring out of control. It may act against you, but the voices and the addiction itself, if it kept convincing you that it is okay to consume more, and you never knew that those soothing voices were mean, those soothing voices were mean and wicked, and they were trying to act against you. But now, when you have known it, you should see the usual mechanism, and you have also learned that this particular addiction has become your master. It has started controlling your behavior, your metabolism, your personality, your food intake, your social interaction, your personal life, your decisions. It has completely taken over you. And when you realize this thing, that you are caught up this in this deep hole, you are likely to go to depression. So so again, you are caught in a negative feedback, in a way that the addiction, it controls your mind. And when it controls your mind, it leads to unpredictable behavior pattern, which happens with those who are addicted to something. because life is not that monotonous. And what happens in addicts that they need to consume a certain amount of drug substance or behavior to live a normal life. And but life is not monotonous, so life goes its own way. Things will keep happening, and sometimes you may be delayed, and if you are delayed and some unforeseen circumstance come, your addiction, your quota will not be filled. And if your quota will not be filled, there will be unpredictable behavior pattern even among social situation. And if such happen, it leads to shame. And when you continue monitoring yourself, that sometimes you are totally stranger to yourself, that your behavior can be totally unpredictable. The shame will lead to a solitary confinement. And if you become solitary, it leads to depression, because there are no you are depriving yourself of meaningful company, or some people who can really work out things for you. But because of that shame, because of this addiction, you have cornered yourself into a solitary confinement. And if you are that lonely, if you go to into solitude, depression can be likely. And not just likely, it happens all the time. Like um, if you voluntarily take yourself out from a situation, from social settings, just because just because of addiction or unpredictable behavior or shame, those things will take a toll on your mental health. Now, let's talk about how to break this cycle. The first thing, you must be honest about it. Whatever behavior you are indulging in and whatever substance you are consuming, you must be honest to yourself that this thing has spiraled out of control. This particular addiction is not under your control, spiraled out of control. And you should be honest about it, that this thing is now controlling you, it's controlling your life and your behavior. And you should not be ashamed about it. You should not be, you should not feel shame about it, because if you had the chance, you could not have caught yourself in this mess. You could not have invited this thing in your life. You could not have invited this thing for your child, for your family. You know that. So this thing, this virus, or this malice was not taken up by you voluntarily. It was there in your life by some reasons that are unknown to you. And this is how life works on us, works on each of us. And we cannot change the way life is. We cannot change the way life happened to us. We can only change our behavior. We can only change our reaction to it. And now, when you become honest about it, you you need to figure a way out. And here, when you want to figure a way out, delayed gratification comes to your rescue. Let's see how this works. Now you know that you have been honest with yourself, and now you know that this thing has been controlling you all along, and now you need to fight it. But you're also caught in this situation, that you have since long realized that this thing is not going anywhere in the short term. it will likely to stay there, and it it has a strong influence on your activity levels. But you still want to de-addict yourself, you still want to fight. So it is as if you are lying in your own shit, you are lying in your own puddle, but still you don't want to accept the situation as it is. You know that you are in your shit, but you want to put up a fight, and that's a strong reason that you are likely to emerge victorious, that you are likely to de-addict yourself. And you know that even if you are going to indulge in this substance or this behavior in the short term, it won't be without a good fight. So delayed gratification is like you should delay it. You should delay the consumption of those substances. You should delay the occurrences of those behaviors. And this can be done by indulging or occupying yourself with some activity. The more the activity, the less will be the pressure. But it is not going to swoop away in one night or a week or a fortnight. It may take some time, but it is a and it's a long term and a potent solution, a solution that will work, and it will give you a new life. And let me tell you, this new life will come in many stages. In the stage one, when you put up good fight, when you delay things by some activity, in the beginning, life will life will take a few steps back, and it will happen that you will feel euphoric about it. That is how easily you could have defeated your addiction, how easily you had cut down your alcohol, how easily you have cut down your pornography. But don't be euphoric or joyous about it. This is a trick used by life to send you flying down that hole. And how it does that? So in the beginning, when you are very energetic about giving up, when you are energetic about quitting, so in that case, when your energy is high, you are likely to hold back, you are likely to resist. And in that resistance, life will not resist you. It will help you in the temporary um, de-addiction. But it is as if life helps you come out of that hole. So if this is an addiction, you are here, and when you are very joyous about it, when you are energetic about it, you climb a few steps and you reach here, and life allows you to reach here. And here in this stage one, when you reach this place, life will sand you down. Life will kick you down, and in such a merciless way that you will never be able to come up again. So don't be don't become very happy if your de-addiction works in this initial stages. And now comes to the stage two. In stage two, you realize that you are standing up standing up against a giant wall, a wall that you need to tear down, a wall that you need to constantly hammer down chip by chip, step by step. It's an ongoing battle. It's not going to be over in a few days. You you're likely to delay your consumption, and that will be followed by again those substance abuses, but don't lose heart. It's a long battle, and in that battle, sometimes you will win, sometimes you will lose. But remember that it's a giant wall, and a wall that need to be tear down, that need to be torn down chip by chip, and your perseverance, your persistence will work. And if you are brave enough, if you are courageous enough to go for this long battle, this will develop some strong qualities in you. And those strong qualities will set up a virtuous, a positive cycle in you. And those strong qualities will help you um, gain some mental and physical strength when because the delay in gratification, it will be accompanied by some activity. I'm sorry if I forgot to mention about it, that this delay in the gratification or delay in the substance abuse, it must be accompanied by some activity that indulge you completely. And whatever it can be reading, it can be dancing, it can be writing, it can be recording, it can be your profession, it can be farming, it can be agriculture, it can be as simple as walking. You need to indulge yourself in some activity, and whenever you feel the urge to consume a substance, delay it by involving yourself and occupying yourself with that activity. And when you go for that long battle, this activity, it will set off a few positive feedbacks. First, it will develop appetite in you, and that will restart your metabolism. You will crave for food more, and this food will energize your cells. And if your cells are energized, it will energize your brain, since your brain consumes 20 to 25% of your energy. And if your brain is energized, it will be ready to fight up more. So first, these are metabolic activities, and then there are uh, this activity, whatever they have some occupational benefits. Suppose you are writing, or suppose you are dancing or reading. If you keep doing them multiple times, they are likely to be perfected or near perfected, or they are likely to be improved. So those improvised versions will help in your occupation. So money will come in sooner or later. So remember, your activity, it is your gun, it is your sword, it is your lance, it is your weapon. And whenever you feel that the voices inside your head and the events surrounding you, they are overwhelming you, they are overpowering you, and they are trying to drag you down to the same substance abuse or the same compulsive behavior, you should indulge in that activity and leave the rest to the fight. Sometimes you're likely to win, and sometimes you're likely to lose. But always be prepared for that fight. And that fight, by which I mean the delayed gratification, go for it. This fight will help you start new a new life, a new version of yourself, a new happier and a wiser version of yourself. Thank you very much.